Hello, I'm the Wild Nerd, and this is a tutorial, sort of like code overview, I guess, where I'm going to be walking you through creating a picture viewer in A-Frame. So we're going to have a camera, a picture, geometry, and a wall. And we're going to allow the user to basically look at this picture and then change the size as well of the picture using React. So I'll be using React and A-Frame, React A-Frame in this example. So without further ado, let's dive into it. So this is the final, this is what we'll create in the tutorial. So it's just basically a viewer you can change the sizes on with texture, we'll be covering texture, adding a floor, adding some shadows, adding a skybox, and just basically modifying the size, height, and width in real time via state in React. So watch on for that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to want to do is create a new React project. So let's go, I'm using WebStorm for this. So I'm just going to be creating the project based on if you're using WebStorm, just because for speed really, to be honest. So we're going to click React app, we're going to create a new React app, we're going to call it A-Frame Gallery. So then you can use create React app if you're using it on not WebStorm. So there's other tutorials for doing that. I think I've got a few actually. So if you want to figure out how to use create React app, you can use that. But let's just call it A-Frame pic viewer. So give it some sort of name. Well, that's just the standard stuff. I'm not going to use TypeScript and create one new window. Okay. So it's just downloading now, it's going to take ages, so I'll leave it for a minute. Okay, so my npm dependencies have installed. Now I have the starting point of an app. So I've got my index.js, app.js, which is where we're going to be doing our editing, index CSS, etc, etc. So we've got our entry point set up, and our CSS set up, and our app. So we're going to be using this package, which is called A-Frame React. It's a wrapper for A-Frame React. So let's install that first. Just copy and paste this. First, copy and paste, technical term. Let's go to our here. Let's open this. Open up the directory where our package JSON is, and I'll just paste those, and it's going to save those to the dependencies. React DOM will be already installed, but it's just didn't need to do React and React DOM, but I'll skip them anyway. So install those. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is create A-Frame scene. We're going to create also a wrapper for the scene, so it won't take up the full width of the canvas, as it were, the page. So okay, so that's installed. Good. Found 0 vulnerabilities. That's nice. So okay, so let's just start. I think it's the CSS we're going to require, so we're going to I'll just use index CSS. App CSS, sorry, not index CSS. I mean, this could be set to whatever if you've got main or something. Okay, so we're going to have this the scene in a wrapper. So let's do that first. Call it A-Frame iframe wrapper. Oh, frame wrapper. I'll make this a bit bigger as well, actually. So you can see it a bit better. Okay, so CSS to start off. So we're going to add minimum height. So the minimum height will be on screen. I'm going to set it to 500 pixels. I'm going to write height instead of height. Height auto for scaling. Width auto as well. So I just want it to be I'll make a container wrapper as well for this. Then margin left. Auto, I want to center it basically in the container divots in, and then margin right. Auto, so I'll center it in whatever divots in. Okay, so next I want to create a wrapper for that. I think, if I remember right, yeah. Actually, maybe I don't need to. I can't remember. Yeah, so we've done that now. Let's just go off presentation mode. Let's add our A-frame scene to the React app.js. Just exit presentation mode so we can see what I'm doing. Okay. Okay, so first we're going to want to import in our A-frame. The A-frame elements we need to use and A-frame itself. So Control C that because I'm lazy. Let's import those in. So we're importing in the A-frame package, and we're importing in the entity and the scene, which is what we need for the two, I guess, components we need from A-frame React. And I want to delete all of this because I don't need any of it. So get rid of all this stuff. This is just purely. Actually, probably don't even need it. Header really. Just need the app. Now, next, we want to import our scene into the to here. So let's do that. So to do this, we go scene, class name, give it the class name that we used, which is A-frame wrapper. Cool. And then we want to set so. In this example, we're going to add our own lighting, so we're going to turn default lights embedded off. So we go light false, embedded because it's embedded instead of just taking up the whole scene. And then we'll add also the inspector, which this will then set up our scene. Okay. I missed a string somewhere. I haven't closed something. Okay. Yeah. So I need to close the scene as well. This is where we'll add our elements. Okay, there we go. So I just needed to close the scene. So we've got a scene of the A-frame. Let's just try and add something now, I suppose. So we're going to add for now we'll just add a camera. We'll add a box, something like this. So let's go to do this. You just go entity. There we go. That's all complete. ID. Give it an ID. Entity. Let's call it. I'll make this our wall, so we'll call it wall. The sort of primitive it is a box. The geometry of A-frame. So primitive equals a box. And material go on to layout. Maybe just give it a color for now. Color red. Let's just close that for now. So give it some. Also add like we'll do positioning. So add some position, which adds the coordinates in space. Position equals, and then in A-frame you have to do this 0 y axis and z axis. So let's do the back of it. Oop, did too many brackets there. Okay, add the that'll then give it a position in space. Also, we want to give it some scale, so let's give it some scale. Scale equals and this, and then give it with different values. So just tidy this up a bit. So maybe we want to give it like 20. Y can stay the same, and 2, which is I think will create like a sort of rectangle. Now let's try running the thing. So we're running npm start. Boots up. Now we're running the start. npm start. Something else is running, so I'll just use it. Yep, that's fine. So it'll be on port 3001. Usually be on port 3000, but I've got another app running on that one. So hopefully we should see now an A-frame scene being rendered with just a simple cube in it, which is red. The colour might not work though, I'm not sure. I might have to set material differently, but bada bing bada bosh. So yeah, we've added, so to summarise that part, we've added a scene, which has got some CSS for the wrapper to make it embedded, and then we've added okay, so it looks not working, or maybe it is. So important lesson here. I own myself. The canvas was rendering. You can press Control Alt and I basically to get into the inspector mode. So I did some of my scalings wrong somewhere. Yeah, basically the x coordinate was 0, so it just has no width and many other things. So let's go back and fix that. So that's a useful thing to know as an inspector. I just got a bit confused then because it felt like the embedded scene wasn't working. So anyway, let's go back into presentation mode. Don't want that now. There we go. Good. So the scale should actually be something more like 20, maybe 50, something like that. And let's just check it again in the on here. Refresh. Didn't go off the scene. There we go. Now we see it turn up. So it was there all along. I was just being a dumbass. So there, that's a bit too big for a wall, so let's just scale it down a bit. So we want probably 30 maybe by 20. It's sort of not to be more of a rectangle than a square. Okay, cool, good. So we've got a cube. We've got VR mode, we can go to that. Swish it around. We've got a cube. Good. So next we want to add, I guess, a floor and a skybox. So let's do that. So I'll do this sort of in this order so it makes sense. Entity ID sky. Makes sense, doesn't it? Primitive primate. Let's copy this because it's easier. Primate. I'm very tired, sorry. Primitive a sky. Material will add. So I did white wall for this before. I missed that when I was screwing around. And then sky. You can add a texture as well. I need to add that now, so add the variable let. Just type let. And I call it sky. Give it a standard shader. Probably doesn't even need that. Make it, I don't know, blue. So I've added the sky now. I haven't closed it though. Get a bit messy, I'll tidy that up in a minute. Okay. There we go, we've got a blue skybox. Very blue. So we've got that, we've got a wall. The wall's still a bit too big, I'll turn that down a bit actually, the height. So make it, maybe make this 15, this 20. I think. Should do the trick. Hot loading is good, good. Okay, so next I think we'll add some light. So we're going to add two types of light, ambient and point lighting, to the scene. We'll add these probably below sky. I think it makes sense there. Entity, not that. Light. Now this took a while to figure out when I was working it out because it's not really set the same way. It was a bit confusing, but yeah. I mean this React-Aframe is a bit confusing because you have to set things a bit differently. It's arguably not the best way to do it as well anymore, but it's a way to do it. So, so intensity and position. I'm just going to set it generically to basically 0, 0, 0. Okay, just get ambient lighting, and I'm going to switch off the default lighting, which is already switched off. You can also add shadows, so I'll add that back in. And I can probably add this back as well now. See if this works. Doesn't break anything. Good. There you see. So this is what I was on about, the embedded. So that's now picking up the CSS that I set before, which I was getting confused about because I didn't realise that I'd created a strange cube which was too far away. So let's just get rid of that. Actually, you probably want to put that back in now. That's just something I commented out when I work on this. Kind of quite messy, quite quick with some of these. It would be better to get this in its own separate component, but this is an example, so it's not too big a deal. Just exit presentation mode. So next we're going to look at our making the CSS a bit better on that. Make it a bit bigger probably. Okay. Let's give it to our app CSS. I need to make it bigger for this. Just make it 700 instead of 500. And so next I think we add something to change the width and a height element. So I'm going to put an artwork here of some sort, or a picture. So let's do that. What was I? Oh yeah, so I'm going to do it. Add some. We'll have to. Yeah, we'll add the wall piece first actually. So I'm just going to copy this box because they're doing the same type of entity. So I might as well copy it and change these a bit, and change this to white wall. Is not really descriptive, but it doesn't matter. Picture. Add it as black so it's easy to see against the red. And I'm going to add a picture instead of white wall. And let's put into that variable box again, yeah. And I want to make it, I think it's minus 24. And I'm going to make it, for now, 10 by 10. We'll change that in the state so that you can change and modify the state later, the size of it later. But for now, let's just do this. There we go. So now we've got a mock picture. Finally, we add a floor. So we're going to add a plane at the bottom of the screen, basically. So similar method to before. We want to go to add this to the bottom. I guess that makes sense. So you just need to change some of these, the types, etc. The primitive type. So primitive plane. There should be picture actually. I should change it. I shouldn't have similar IDs for different things. I'm going to go floor. Material can be picture. It's black at the minute, so it doesn't really matter. And I want to change. Do want that. Not O. God damn it. Seriously. And also add shadows now as well. So I'll introduce it to that. So you can add shadows, receive true, which means it receives shadows that are cast by any object. So you can also add shadow casts for the wall as well. So that might start looking a bit better. So add a shadow cast true, cast shadow, and the plane receives the shadow information basically, as I expect. So that's a shadow type soft there is defined. Alright, what else do I need to add? We've got position, don't need scale. Let's see what that looks like. I think it might be a bit wrong, but let's just have a look. Yeah, it's a bit wrong. I think I know what I need to do. I need to add height and width, yeah. Width. Width. Ah. Okay. We think we fixed it before, so I'll just copy that code in. There we go. It needs a bit of modifying, obviously that's more like a bridge now. But yeah. So I need to make that bigger. I also need to take it down a bit, I think. I always get a bit confused the plane in yeah, how do I set this size again? This worked before. It's probably a better method of doing this. It's worse. We just go into the inspector again. Pro tip. I can pretty fast get a quick idea of why that's happening. So in the inspector, which is useful to know anyway, I can just height is width is wait. Refresh that again. Width for some reason is reading as 1. Okay. I can't see anything. What? Not quite sure why it's 1. That's weird. Let's take it back. Have a look again. Reloads, hot loading. Huh. It must be the wrong way around. Sorry, I've just got 2 things open, so it's a bit confusing at times. Okay. Oh, I know why it is. It's because I'm in width. There we go. My God. So basically, I just didn't. I put width instead of width, which means it would never interpret it correctly. Okay, so we've got a basic scene set up. Now let's change. Let's give some of these. Let's add a picture, for example, instead of just a blank color. Let's add a texture, as it were. So let's do that now. And also add material like roughness and metalness. So I'll just find a picture. Get one of my pictures, one of my artworks. 0 index, that'll do. Copy this into the directory I'm working in, which is dev work, pick viewer. I'm going to put it in the public. Okay, I want to call it just pick so it's easier for me to remember. JPEG. A-frame pick viewer, where I've got picture, I'm going to change it from color black to source. And then I'm going to add the path, which is it's in the public directory, so it's just pick.jpg, I think. And then I'm going to add metalness as well to it. Metalness 0.4. I'll make it quite high just to demonstrate it, I guess. Maybe roughness. 0.6. Okay, now let's just see what effect that has. Yeah, so it's changed the floor as well, but you can see now that the pitch shows up. Yeah, I just need to change this so it doesn't receive the white wall instead of that. Otherwise it's a bit confusing, to say the least. I'm going to do that black instead, or white. White would make some more sense. White wall. There we go. Now I'm going to add some lights. think I've added any yet. They've added the ambient lighting, but it's not very bright, so let's set up another light of type point, I think. Yeah, I'm going to set up a point light. So I'll just copy and paste this, because it's basically the same way we did before with the other light. So just copy that entity of type point light, intensity, cast shadow true, because you want it to cast shadows. Decay doesn't really matter, don't worry about that too much. Position is that, so it's just a bit offset from the x-axis. Okay, there we go. So now we see some light on our scene. It's a bit too bright actually. It's a bit too much. A bit GT. Also, I think we want to move the. Just you can see actually now from the shadow that it's a bit too wall is a bit too high up. Let's just change that. Just mess around with it, see what happens. Okay, that's a bit too low down. Actually, it's probably the needs to move. Oh yeah, it's on -20. Shouldn't need to be that. That's just when I was playing around. Screwed it up. I don't know. Yeah, it does need to be down a bit. The joys, the joys. Now let's move our picture up a bit. So I'll do, I think, oh, too much, way too much. 5 should do it. 2. Okay, anyway. Can fight around with this for ages. That's that. It's got a texture. We've got a shadow being cast. Skybox. Yada yada yada. Okay, so now next, I think we'll look at changing the size of this based on state. So yeah, let's do that. Fucking right, so I've got that in there now. So I'm just basically converted into a class component now. I'll speed that up a lot because it's just annoying. But anyway, okay. So now what I want to do is add a text field for the and then also update the state based on the new measurements you put in, basically, which will then update the picture size. Hopefully. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so let's put in input field type number. Because that's what we're putting in. Nothing else. Doesn't need a class. Doesn't need any min or max, could be whatever at the minute. Value equals this dot state. Call it height. Yep. And then we'll add on change event. Arrow function set state. Blah, blah, blah. Height. And then event target value. Shit. Oh fuck. Whatever, I'll just leave it in there. So that's just the search and replace for pluses and minuses, but I can leave it in there. La 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 la, then we'll do one for width as well. Sorry, not the best explanation, I'm getting pretty tired. Width. So now I should see two input fields. Yep, so let's put 220. There we go, there we go. Woohoo! It works. 1, 2, 13. Go crazy. 10 by 10. So that's that. Basically, let's just do 90. It's too big usually if you set it to anything, but it's not really small. You could probably set a max, but doesn't really matter for the purposes of the example. I mean, probably one thing we want to do is move the camera a bit closer. It's a bit far away at the minute, so let's create a camera, a custom one, and then move it towards the player, towards the camera basically. Okay, so I'll have that right at the top, makes sense. So it's much the same method for you, how you've done it before. You just go, copy and paste, but ID primitive A camera in this instance. What look controls, don't want a WASD in this case. Should be a bit closer now. Let's just refresh it. It's a bit far away still. Okay. Try that. Yeah, it's a bit closer. Let's just set it to minus, not 10, or 20. The Z axis. There we go. So that's a lot nicer, a lot cleaner, a lot just closer basically. You bring me closer to camera. So I mean, probably if you're doing this, you probably want to create. You'd want to like divide maybe this by 10 because it's otherwise it's going to be huge. It depends on what scale you're using, I guess. So, yeah, now you can just scale it up, scale it down. I don't know if you can. Yeah, it doesn't let you do minus, which is good. Yeah, you can squidge it, make it bigger, it huge, make it small. Yeah. So that's that. That's basically, admittedly, a very muddled tutorial on creating a 3D art view of A-frame and React, but I hope that'll be of some use. Hope you enjoyed. I've been Nerd. Till next time.